So Joe Biden has pulled out of the presidential race. Things have got pretty crazy lately. Let's have a look.
I'm not going anywhere.
Latterly, he looked like a man in decline.
I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president.
There were gaps, illness, and now Joe Biden has dropped out of the presidential race after vigorously insisting he wouldn't.
That was the strange thing. Is to me, if he was going to pull out, he should have done this like a couple of years ago when it was very obvious to everyone that there was some cognitive decline. However, he's kind of left it a little bit late because I think you guys in America have got like 4 months or something like that until this kicks off properly. So Kamala Harris is now going to be the runner-up, I think, to become the president. Potentially. We will see. BBC News has a lot of positive news in regards to Kamala. BBC being very left-leaning. I took a couple of looks at some websites here, The Guardian and the BBC. They're asking, has Kamala got what it takes to beat Trump? That'll be very interesting to see. From me, my perspective as an English person, obviously this isn't my fight. I'm just curious to see where this roller coaster goes, basically. So, US politics, here we are, The Guardian. There are lots of smiling, happy pictures of Kamala looking relatively biased again in that regard. That's the one thing I found most fascinating about this is the bias between all the medias. So I'm going to take a look at Reddit as well and Twitter, and you'll sort of see. Reddit is incredibly left-leaning. I don't mean to be looking at an elephant. That's something else. What I do mean to be looking at is this. This is the letter that Joe Biden wrote, supposedly. We have to say supposedly. If you're being logical, you kind of have to. I want to believe that he did, but, you know, I mean, times have been rough for Joe. So we're wondering, has he actually done this himself or has he been ousted by the Democrats? You know, is this something they're doing? I don't know. Thank you for your service, Mr. President. You are a selfless hero and a true patriot. Well, history is now made. Biden did a great job to preserve his legacy. I feel like, again, perhaps there's a good legacy in his politics. You be the decider. I'm not going through all of Biden's history. However, I feel like if he truly cared, he would have stepped off a while ago. We've got Reddit here in the R Picks. Nikki Haley endorsing Trump at RNC months after he mocked her husband. Let's have a look and see what the friendly comments are. I love photos. Back in Kamala Harris. She rolled over and peed a little submission, just like literally every other Republican ever has. That's how they roll. These are all like the top voted comments in Reddit. So that's how you know it's very left-leaning. Is that there's ever a political post, it's always going to be completely denouncing the Republicans and always boosting up the Democrats, no matter what the post is about. That's the one thing I've always noticed. And I wish people were a little bit more center is the easiest way to say it, at least more rational. They're always so emotional. It's just like, there are bad people on the left, there are bad people on the right. But the way you would look at it, if you was looking at Reddit, is you would think that the left is like angels or something in comparison to the right. It's just like, it's not accurate. I'm sure there's loads of assholes in both parties, but please be honest and call it out. Personally, I do not like disingenuous behavior. And that's one thing I definitely get when I look at Reddit. You'll give credit to Trump for one thing. He completely stripped the GOP of any pretense to be anything other than the party of grift and grifters. Over on the side of the pond, we witnessed the Conservative Party over 14 years become more and more shameless. That's in the UK, basically, in their greed and dishonesty. 14 years is what it took. Watching the GOP speedrun this thing, looking at Haley's dead soulless eyes and a rectus grin, I can't help but just wonder how low she would go. In all honesty, there is some truth to this. The Conservative Party in the UK, which is more the right-leaning party, or at least they should be, but I don't know if that's true, especially not necessarily these days. Maybe they were when they first started. They screwed up. They had loads of time in power and they consistently screwed up. So they didn't deserve to be in power, which is the reason why we have Labour in power right now. Maybe that's going to be good for our country. I don't know. I'm not really particularly, this way or that way, whatever, one way or the other. However, it'll be interesting to see how Labour go and whether they can do a good thing with this country. Labour being like the Democrats or the Americans being the left. The Conservatives had time. They could have fixed a lot of things that have been issues in the UK. They didn't get it done. We'll see if Labour do the same. Perhaps Labour have another 14 years and they do exactly the same thing, because that's basically what happens in politics, which is why you shouldn't ever get too emotionally driven in politics, because they're always looking out for themselves, not necessarily for you. Okay, here's another Reddit post. Republicans are worried women will elect Democrats in a landslide. That's a good point. Kamala Harris, being a woman, a black woman, supposedly. I shouldn't say supposedly, it's because she's basically got some heritage there. Although there was a post, someone saying that she was Indian American and now she's black American, something like that, 2016 and then 2020. You may have seen that post. But yes, she's going to represent basically the black community and the female community. So that's a push in that direction, which understandably I could totally see women voting that way over Trump. It's just a logical answer. Should they do it necessarily? Is Kamala going to be good for them more than so than Trump? Maybe. We don't know that. But emotionally, again, it comes to that word, they probably will go that way because they're looking at the simplisticness. She female, she black. That's tick boxed. Box ticks. That's good enough. Donald Trump have lost his mind. Conservatives, what is wrong with you? Donald Trump has lost his mind. It was good of him to pay homage to the lad that lost his life. He did do it in a really weird way, though. To me, I don't really agree with this. You may think that's incredibly respectful. I think it's a little bit cheesy, personally. Like someone mentioned, maybe giving a salute or something like that, or at least some kind words would be probably the better approach. This feels more like a publicity stunt, so I'm not really appreciating this kind of look because I can see through that. I don't think that feels disingenuous again, which is something you can be on the left, you can be the right. I don't care. If it's disingenuous, I don't like it. Now, speaking of which, convicted felon and rapist. Wow. I mean, this is a post that's not like taken down on Reddit. They're just flat out calling him this. Being extremely weird with an underage child. Now, that is a little weird. But politicians do kiss children. I don't think they freaking should. I think it's weird and creepy. So if Trump's doing it, I think that's bad. You shouldn't do that. But how comes they talk about that as soon as they see an image of this, but they don't ever talk about the times where it happens with Biden? We'll get into that in a moment. They do, well, they actively try not to, but it's hard not to recognize it because there's so much footage of it. Donald Trump losing to Kamala Harris in 3 national polls. Don't know if this is true because it says all polls at time are hypothetical. Harris is almost certainly going to surge in the polls next week now that she is presumed nominee. This will be interesting because this is kind of, I think, a boost for Democrats. I think they would have definitely lost if Biden was still in power. With Kamala, there's now that chance of hope or change, which is always a big deal in politics. Your next hope to make things better for the future. That's the message she needs to go with to have the best chance, I think, of getting the vote. Yes, so here we come over to Biden. Let's have a little look. Not too much because it's too creepy, really.
Faces. Here's just a few of those moments.
Yeah. Can you whisper a secret? Don't tell mommy what I told you.
Yeah, it's just not right. This one I really didn't like much.
30. Service dude tries to stop this being taped once he sees that Joe has reverted back to this peculiar behaviour.
And it's not only...
That was the one where he was saying something about she needs to be a certain age or whatever it was. It was weird. Now we got Reddit talking about 78 being too old for the president. Do you agree? Never once saw a post about this ever from like the left side on Reddit, whether, you know, this was an age issue or not. Yes, it is an age issue. I don't think either of the presidents should be over 70 years old, personally speaking. That's my opinion. I think it's bad for both and for you, for anyone, that your president is someone that can be in cognitive decline. Speaking of which, they don't want to put America first. They want to put themselves first. If Trump loves America, he needs to end his campaign. Donald Trump is 78 years old and in a state of profound cognitive decline. He should end his campaign immediately. I don't know if he is, though. he's certainly old, and he's in that category now where he can, within X amount of years, 5 to 10, suddenly get to that point, because that's just how the body works. If any of you have relatives, you might know when they get to a certain age, like particularly the 80s or the 90s, they suddenly really rapidly start to drop down in terms of how they behave and who they were compared to who they are at that stage. But I think that's, again, disingenuous, because all of the footage that we've seen of Trump, he's active, he's pretty spry for his age. He moves around with no problem. He talks with no problem. You might not like how he talks because he says a lot of BS, and I would agree with you on that. He does like to stretch the truth, but he's not cognitively declining. There are old 70-year-olds and young 70-year-olds. Everyone knows those people. So at the moment, Donald Trump is still in that young category. I know he's old, but you know what I mean. Like, he's got that youth in his mentality for the time being. So JD Vance, this was a weird one, is going to be the vice president, I think, for Donald Trump. If Trump gets in, he's basically been pushed forward as that. It is a shame he doesn't get to debate Kamala Harris, because, again, I just want to see all the entertaining sort of back and forth between the politicians. It was fun watching the Trump versus Biden. That was an entertaining show for me. Worrying for the American community, though, I imagine, but definitely entertaining from my perspective. I would like to wonder, again, the disingenuousness, because this guy, there was posts of this guy saying Trump was Hitler and all of this kind of stuff, and now suddenly he's singing Trump's praises because this is going to push his political career. Should he do what he's doing? Yes, because he wants to be in power. He's a politician. That's what they do. But do I have any faith in this person? No, because he's literally gone back against himself. It would be like if I spent my life saying, I freaking hate KFC. I hate what they do to chickens and all this kind of stuff. And then like the next few months after years of saying this sort of stuff, or, you know, multiple years of being claimed of doing this, I'm suddenly endorsing KFC, saying, oh, they're great. I love chickens. I love it. I don't care what happens to the chickens because the KFC product is just brilliant. I'm not sponsored by KFC, by the way, during this. I'm just using that as an example. Okay, now we're moving on to Twitter. The real question is how long has Joe Biden been dead? Now, Twitter, I feel, skews a bit more obviously to the right, and this should be interesting.
North Carolina.
I haven't seen these.
Very conservative guy who was very, very.
Oh my gosh, that's a mask.
Oh, I see. No, there's just age. It's a mask.
Can you tell me this is normal? Look at his forehead. This is bullshit. That's a.
What? It's just a troll post. They know he's like 81 years old, right? I haven't seen this one, so I'm taking a risky click.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
Reduce our population, yeah. She has a habit of saying things that perhaps she's not supposed to say, and then it doesn't quite click with her. And maybe afterwards, maybe, you know, when someone tells a joke and you don't always get the punchline, and then sometimes it kicks in like a minute or two later. That kind of happens a lot with Kamala. Joe Biden asked how his career would end before he was sworn into office.
And like I told Barack, if I reach something where there's a fundamental disagreement we have based on a moral principle, I'll develop some disease and say I have to resign. We don't have that. We haven't, and we discussed it, but.
Yeah, so it's almost like they give away. He got the script early on and he forgot he's not supposed to mention it, what's on the script, because he went down with COVID. And we haven't seen him, as far as I know, since. Apparently we've heard, because I've got a couple of clips where we're going to hear Biden. I don't like to be a conspiracy theorist, but with the way technology is at the moment, you could certainly go down this road. But he's got the COVID. He's become unwell. He's realized he's not supposed to be becoming president anymore, even though he was vehemently trying to push to be in president, despite knowing he was cognitively declining, let's face it, or he should have known. Everyone else around him knew. And now suddenly he's just like, yo, I'm stepping down, but you won't see me. I'm just going to chill. And people are even claiming that he's not alive anymore. I don't know how true that is. I guess time will tell. But these are the last couple of posts I'm going to go over. This is not normal. Something is very off. This is Kamala Harris at a very recent conference she had where she's talking to Joe Biden.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.
And it is my great honor to have Joe's endorsement in this race.
You sure do.
Thank you, Joe.
So that's it. You sure do. It's like he talks quite quickly there and efficiently, which is very unusual from anything we've seen. And now I've got more questions now. And I do. Yeah, I agree with that guy. More questions. Because we've got this one coming up as well. This one is even more weird. I know you're still on the call, so listen carefully here. You could always claim it's just a mix-up of words, but, again, like I say, the politicians, they slip from time to time, particularly Kamala.
It is so good to hear our president's voice. Joe, I know you're still on the call, and we've been talking every day. You guys heard it from Doug's voice. We love Joe and Jill. We really do. They truly are like family to us. And we do, everybody here does.
It's mutual.
I knew you were still there. You're not going anywhere, Joe.
I'm watching you, kid. I'm watching you, kid. I love you.
I love you, Joe.
Feels that last bit, he talks so quickly sort of there.
Anywhere, Joe.
I'm watching you, kid. I'm watching you, kid. I love you.
I love you, Joe. Oh.
Doesn't it just really feel, it could be completely real, but you can't help but feel there's something very off about that. It's the uncanny valley. It feels like a weird fake parody TV show where this would be like mocked, but this is actually really happening. So like I say, this has all been very fascinating. I'm just on board to see what happens. I hope Joe's okay and that he's not dead and that he lives the rest of his life taken care of, because that would be horrible if it was the other way around and there is some terrible conspiracy going on. We find this out. That would just not be good. And I hope you guys in America get what you want. Like, have a good fight. Maybe Kamala has a chance. Maybe Trump's still guaranteed to get in because no one likes Kamala. I don't know. It really will be interesting to see. And I hope you guys get the best that you can get, because we all get fucked by our politicians, basically. It's happened in the UK for years and years, like I say, with the Conservative Party. And now we flipped all the way over to the Labour Party. Hopefully they do a good job. But I'm skeptical, and you should be skeptical too. So thanks for watching. If you really enjoyed this, then please like the video and subscribe. And I will see you guys whenever I make another video. So take care. Bye-bye.